Greetings out there in YouTube land. This is Morris, man, and as always, I thank you guys for coming to my channel. Today I'm going to do a brief video, and it's entitled Things That Might Help You Become a Good Guitar Player. From time to time, I'm going to put together these small videos when I think about things that might help you guys out there that's trying to get started with becoming a good musician. And I put together a quick little list, and I'm going to go through the list and explain why these things are important. And the first one is, of course, very obvious: practice. The more you practice, and this is regarding anything in life, the better you become. I can remember when I first started playing guitar, my biggest problem that I had with myself was I can't get through a song without messing up. And after like a year or so, I even forgot about that thought, because I played and played and played to the point where I made a point that I tried to make a spotless or effortless or errorless performance. So I can't say enough about number one as far as just practicing, because I know unfortunately now we live in an era where it's quick, fast, in a hurry. I thank God I grew up in the era that I did for many reasons, and one of them was the fact that back then people want to actually learn how to play an instrument. The majority of us young guys in the neighborhood back then was either doing one or two things, both of these things: playing softball, chasing women, and trying to become a musician. You couldn't go down, 3-4 blocks without hearing a group of guys in their parents' garage playing. Unfortunately now that's just almost non-existent in the young black community, that you get a group of black guys playing and it's not their fault. It's because of the technology and the demands on of the record companies, that they're not trying to sign quote unquote a band anymore, black band. They're trying to hire or put under contract one guy, and then they get two other guys to put the whole album together. So it's unfortunate that R&B music has really decayed to that point. But moving forward to number two, working on playing bass and understanding other instruments. Because I've had a couple of students that I stressed to them. I said, once you kind of get comfortable with guitar, buy yourself a bass. Why? I really don't want to play bass. Here's the reason why. Once you have learned more or less the theory behind an instrument, you can take that information and transfer it over to another instrument. The only thing you got to do now is just work on the dexterity of the other instrument, the physical aspect, but the concept of music, chords, sharps and flats, all that stuff transfers over. And it's not that difficult to switch over to bass when you're playing guitar, because it's a string instrument. Now you're just dealing with 4 big strings instead of 6 small ones. But I have some people that really don't want to do it, and I told them the benefits of it, because once you learn how to play bass, and I'm not saying you need to become a Louis Johnson or Victor Wooten, just decent enough that you can play and you know what you're doing on bass. And the reason why it's so important, because the majority of the stuff that I learned as far as the chord placements in the songs, I learned it through the bass notes. I mean, I listen to the bass note, the root note, and then I can determine, because that's kind of the pattern or the system. Listen to the root bass note, and then you run or audition these chords. If the bass player is hitting the G note, on that particular point in the song, so your job is to locate. It's going to either be a G major, G minor 7, G7, G major 7, then maybe 1 or 2 others. Audition those chords around that note, and I guarantee you that you're going to find that particular chord that corresponds with that bass note. So that's why I try to stress to people that it's good to pick up other instruments, because not only it makes you a better musician on your instrument, it also helps you learn how to write music, for other instruments. Because I play, several different instruments: guitar, bass, drums, keyboards. I started off actually as a trumpet player, and actually I was a pretty decent trumpet player, but I got tired of blowing and got a headache. So I was like, maybe this ain't for me. So I kind of switched over. But as a result of that, I can sit down by myself and write lyrics, write for the piano, write for the drums, write for the guitar, write string arrangements. So it's really important to, not become tunnel vision, or I'm just a guitar player and that's all I'm going to do. Because if you expand your horizons, you can become a really pretty good producer and songwriter. And people ask me, what do I think of myself as first? And strangely enough, actually, it's a songwriter. My musical skills come secondary, because that's why I've made a great deal of my money and my living from writing songs. and secondary for playing for other people and touring with them. So it's good to kind of expand your horizons when it comes to different instrumentation. Okay, number 3, stick to one guitar program and try to learn it. There is an exception. If you're working on something that's not going to make you a good guitar player, yeah, by all means, abandon it. But unfortunately, majority of the people these days, they get sucked into these programs of marketing that you can become a good guitar player in 90 days, like losing the weight and becoming, six-pack ab nonsense. Those are just fly-by-night programs, and they're not going to yield the results you're looking for. So once you do find one, stick with it and just keep playing and keep practicing. You'll get better. Number 4, don't expect to become a good player in a very short period of time. It kind of just ties into what I was just saying as far as it's going to take time, and you got to put your effort and dedication into it, because the more you play, the better you become. Because, like I said, back in the era that I grew up in, everybody was really serious about trying to become a good musician. And I spent countless amount of days in the summertime upstairs in my mother's house. It's like 80 degrees outside, it's about 150 degrees upstairs, and I'm just playing, practicing, playing and practicing, playing, practicing. And as a result of that, I became a pretty decent guitar player and multi-musicianist. Because here's another interesting fact. The majority of the professional musicians play more than one instrument. Here's the example. Paul McCartney, you usually see him strapped with a bass, but he plays guitar, he plays piano, he plays drums. Prince, plays everything. Ray Parker Jr., good guitar player, great bass player, great keyboard player, drummer. So the list goes on. And again, it goes back to number 2, understanding other instruments and becoming pretty decent on them. Not trying to master them, but just decent enough to play or write for those other instruments. Number 5, hang around other dedicated young musicians in your neighborhood and stay away from the toxic people. Again, the era that I grew up in, the majority of us, like out of 10 guys, it was 7 of those guys trying to play. They were trying to put together bands, and they were pretty serious about trying to become decent musicians. And the statement at the end of that one is about where it says toxic people. Stay away from those people, because sometimes we don't realize we have people around us that are dragging us down. And some of them are deliberately trying to do it, and some of them have no idea that they're doing that. And I give you a good example. And this is a personal story. I grew up with about 4 guys. They were like my brothers. These guys, we started in grammar school, and when we became good friends, and to this day, 2 of those people are still in my life. And unfortunately, some of those other people aren't, because I remember the day that we had this, part. I got older, I had a good job, I was married, had a baby on the way. So every year I would get together with these childhood friends and take them out to dinner for their birthday. And this particular evening, we went, had dinner. Then they wanted to go have a drink or two. I'm like, fine, I don't drink, but, I could sit and have an orange juice or cranberry. So on our way there, and we are in our late 20s at this point, they sticking their head out the window, hollering at young girls. I'm like, man, what's going on here? What's up with that? Oh, you being the square? I'm like, no, we're grown men now. We're not 17 or 18 horny little dudes. And we need to act like grown men. Or you just think you're better than us. At that point, I realized that those people were no longer beneficial to my life, and I had to cut them loose because they became toxic. So I'm like, I can't follow your path, and you're not trying to follow my path, so it's time to say goodbye. And it's unfortunate because sometimes you have to do that. So that's why I put in, stay away from toxic people. Okay, number 7. I'm almost done. Rhythm players get more money and get more gigs than lead players. I was told a long time ago when I was starting to play, if you focus on your rhythm, because you got a pretty good right hand, I can see that right now. So I can imagine in 5 years, you're going to be even better. And they said that it might be beneficial to you to lean more towards rhythm because, plain and simple, rhythm guitar players get more gigs than lead guitar players, because in most songs, especially in that era, there was always going to be a rhythm guitar player, whether he's playing the chorus or just doing lead lines, but not soloing, versus the lead guitar player where maybe on the entire album of an artist, he might have 1 or 2 solos on that album. That's it. You know, unless you Elijah Brothers, where they cut Ernie loose every song. It became kind of redundant. Because, I mean, you know, I'm a huge Ernie Isley fan, but I really don't want to hear a solo in every song. It's like musicals. When I was a kid, I hated them because every 2 seconds they breaking in the song and singing. I'm like, oh my goodness. And that's kind of how I feel about, you know, lead soloing. You know, you use it sparingly. You don't use it every song, you know, that you're recording on, you know, because again, it becomes redundant. But that's my opinion. Okay, and actually I can expound on that and maybe in another video I will. But I'm about to wrap this up. Number 8, focus on a specific style of music and try to become in that style. There's nothing wrong with playing other styles secondary, but for the most part, if you are trying to become a funk guitar player, focus on that. Instead of I spend 50% time on this, 50% time on another style of music that I won't really benefit or profit off of. So, you know, it's best to kind of stick to one specific style because unfortunately in the music industry, they don't let you have an album where you got a funk song, a country and western song, a rap song all in one album because they're trying to find your audience niche. And once they do, they focus in on that. But I see that my time is about to run out on my camera. So until next time, this is Morris Man signing off and thanks for watching.